The morning sun turned the labor auction yard into a furnace. Carrick stood in the back row of the platform, her emerald scales dulled by dust and malnutrition, wings folded so tight against her back they cramped. She kept her head down, avoiding the eyes of potential buyers who walked the line, inspecting merchandise. That's what they all were here. Merchandise. 3 days. That's how long it had been since her cubs had eaten anything more than the half-rotten vegetables she'd fished from behind the market. Sith had stopped complaining about hunger yesterday, which frightened her more than his whimpering ever had. When a 4-year-old dragon cub went quiet, it meant his body was starting to shut down non-essential functions. She'd seen it before, in the refugee camps after the war that had taken everything. Lot 47, the auctioneer called. Draconian female, approximately 30 standard years, general labor, basic literacy, contract term negotiable. Who'll start the bidding? Carrick's forced herself to step forward. The platform boards creaked under her weight. Dragons weren't meant for places like this. They were meant for sky and mountain, for the thermal currents above the Crimson Peaks, where her clan had lived for 7 generations, before the bombardment, before the Empire had decided that her people's mountains contained valuable minerals worth more than the lives built upon them. 50 credits for a 3-month term, someone called from the crowd. A Centaurian merchant by the looks of him. The offer was insultingly low. 3 months of labor for barely enough to feed her cubs for 2 weeks. She'd known it would be like this. Draconians were everywhere since the displacement. Cheap, desperate, willing to work for almost nothing. The market was flooded. 50 credits, the auctioneer repeated, sounding bored. Do I hear 60? Silence. The crowd shifted, already losing interest. In another moment, they'd move on to the next lot, someone younger or stronger or more exotic. This was her chance, maybe her only chance. 25, Carrick's called out, her voice rough from disuse. 25 credits for 3 months. The auctioneer's head snapped up. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. You didn't bid on yourself. You didn't undercut the already pathetic opening offer. It wasn't done. The merchandise cannot bid on herself, the auctioneer said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. Nothing in the auction house rules explicitly forbade it. The situation had simply never come up. Who would devalue themselves like that? A mother with 2 starving cubs. That's who. I'm offering my labor for 25 credits. 3 months, any legal work, Carrick said louder now. Her heart's hammered against her ribcage. I can lift twice my body weight. I don't require much food. I work fast and I don't complain. The Centaurian merchant laughed. Others joined in, the sound cut deeper than any blade. This was what she'd become. A joke, a creature so desperate she'd sell herself for less than the cost of a decent meal in any mid-tier restaurant. But it would feed Sith and Mera, for a little while at least. 25 credits, the auctioneer said slowly, clearly calculating whether this breach of protocol was worth the commission he'd get from any sale. Do I hear 500? The voice came from the back of the crowd, deep and firm, human. The murmurs died instantly. 500 credits for a 3-month labor contract was absurd. You could get a skilled technician for that, a pilot, a licensed medical assistant. The crowd parted. The human who walked through was tall by their species standards, maybe 6 feet, with the kind of build that came from years of hard work rather than gymnasium vanity. Scars traced silver lines across his dark skin, the most prominent cutting through his left eyebrow and continuing down his cheek. Military scars. Carrick knew them when she saw them. She carried enough of her own. He wore practical clothing, the kind that had been repaired multiple times, but his boots were good quality, and his eyes were clear and sharp. Maybe 40 standard years old, though humans could be difficult to age accurately. 500 credits, he repeated, looking not at the auctioneer but directly at Carrick. For a business partnership, 60-40 split on all profits. You keep the 40. Contract term of 3 months. with option to extend or dissolve by either party with 1 week's notice, room and board included, separate quarters, meals provided for you and your dependents. Carrick's mind stuttered. Dependents. He knew about her cubs. How did he know about her cubs? Sir, this is a labor auction, not a... The auctioneer began. I'm bidding 500 credits for her contract, the human interrupted. Are you going to refuse a valid bid? The auctioneer's mouth opened and closed. 500 credits meant a 50 credit commission. That was more than he usually made in a week. Sold, he said quickly before anyone could complicate matters further. Lot 47 to the human gentleman. Pay at the office. The human nodded once and walked toward the auction house office without another word. Carrick stood frozen on the platform, her minds racing. Both of them, the logical and the instinctive, were screaming contradictory warnings and hopes. Move along, 47, the auctioneer said, already calling the next lot number. Collect your papers from the office. Carrick's legs moved automatically, carrying her down the platform steps and through the crowd that parted reluctantly. In the office, the human was already completing the payment, his scarred fingers moving across a datapad with practiced efficiency. The clerk processed the transaction with barely concealed glee at the unexpected windfall. Papers! The clerk said, shoving a folder toward Carrick's. Standard contract, modified terms as specified. You default, you owe the balance. You run, we send hunters. Understand? I understand, Carrick said quietly. Good. You're his problem now. The clerk turned away, dismissing her existence with the gesture. The human picked up his copy of the contract and walked toward the door. After a moment, Carrick's followed. What else could she do? Outside, the heat hit like a physical wall. The human walked 3 blocks in silence before stopping beside a battered cargo hauler that had seen better decades. He unlocked it manually rather than with a remote, which told Carrick's the security system was probably dead. The hauler itself looked like it had been assembled from parts of at least 4 different vehicles, none of them from the same manufacturer. Name's Marcus Webb, the human said, still not quite looking at her. I run a salvage operation in the industrial quarter, small outfit. Just me, usually, but I've got contracts piling up that need more than 2 hands. Why? The word came out before Carrick's could stop it. Now Marcus did look at her. His eyes were brown, warm but tired. The eyes of someone who'd seen too much and kept going anyway. Why what? Why 500 credits? Why business partner instead of laborer? Why meals for my cubs? You could have had me for 25. You heard me offer it. Her voice cracked on the last word. Saying it out loud made the shame fresh again. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled open the hauler's passenger door, which squealed in protest. You said you were worth 25 credits, he said. I'm saying you're wrong. Get in. We'll pick up your cubs first, then I'll show you the operation. You didn't answer my question. I will, but first, where are your kids? Carrick's defensive instinct screamed at her. Never reveal where you den. Never show anyone your vulnerabilities. Never trust a human, especially one who just bought your contract for unexplained reasons. But Sith and Mera hadn't eaten in 3 days. Warehouse district, she said quietly. Section 7, Building 12, the condemned one. Something flickered across Marcus's expression. Not pity exactly, something closer to recognition. I know it, he said. That's where the Draconian refugees cluster, rent-free because the buildings should have been demolished years ago. The city keeps pushing back the demolition date. As long as we're there, they don't have to provide official refugee housing. Carrick's climbed into the hauler. The passenger seat barely accommodated her frame, and her wings pressed uncomfortably against the back. We're convenient. Invisible. Marcus started the engine, which coughed twice before catching. Yeah, I know something about being convenient and invisible. He drove with the kind of casual competence that came from years behind a control stick. The hauler was old but maintained. Carrick's noticed the way Marcus anticipated its quirks, the slight pull to the left, the sticky throttle, someone who took care of his equipment, even when that equipment was barely functional junk. The warehouse district rolled past outside the windows. Carricks had walked these streets 100 times, but seeing them from inside a vehicle made them look different. Smaller somehow. More obviously, the dumping ground they were. "You were military," Marcus said. It wasn't a question. "Wing Commander, 3rd Talon Brigade," Carricks answered automatically, then wondered why she'd given her rank. It didn't mean anything anymore. Before the mineral reallocation," Marcus said, his voice flat. "That's what they called it in the official reports. Reallocation. Like your mountains were just resources in the wrong location. You followed the war. I fought in it. Advisory role, but I was there." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I told my superiors the bombardment strategy was going to cause a humanitarian crisis. I was told that wasn't my concern. My concern was tactical efficiency. The pieces slid into place. The scars, the way Marcus held himself, that particular brand of weariness that came from disillusionment rather than defeat. The fact that he lived in the industrial quarter running a salvage operation instead of enjoying whatever pension human veterans received. You objected," Carrick said. "They didn't like that. Turns out, the military doesn't appreciate advisors who advise things they don't want to hear. I got honorably discharged, which is their polite way of saying, go away before we find a dishonorable reason." Marcus turned the hauler down a narrow street. "Took my severance pay, bought some salvage equipment, set up shop. Been 4 years now. Do you regret it? Speaking up?" Marcus pulled up in front of Building 12. The warehouse leaned slightly to the left, and several windows were broken. Carricks could see makeshift clotheslines strung between buildings, the universal sign of refugees trying to maintain dignity in undignified circumstances. "I regret that it didn't change anything," Marcus said. "Your people still got bombed off your mountains. Still ended up here in places like this, still got turned into cheap labor for the same economy that destroyed your homes." He turned off the engine. "But no, I don't regret trying." Carricks sat in the sudden silence, trying to understand this human who just upended her morning in ways she still couldn't fully process. "Why?" she asked again. "Why does any of this matter to you?" Marcus finally looked at her fully, and Carrick saw the answer in his eyes before he spoke. "Because someone has to give a shit," he said simply, "and everyone else seems to have decided it's not their problem. So I guess it's mine." He gestured toward the warehouse. "Go get your cubs. I'll wait here." Carricks opened the door, then paused. "If this is some kind of—" "It's not," Marcus interrupted. "I need a partner who knows salvage work from the inside. You're ex-military, which means you know ship systems, equipment maintenance, resource management under pressure. You can fly, which I can't. You can reach spaces I can't. And you're strong as hell, even half-starved like you are now." He pulled out a small bag and handed it to her. "There's 1,000 credits in there. Enough for food, basic medical supplies, whatever your cubs need immediately. When you come back, we'll talk about the actual work." "You're giving me 1,000 credits before we've even formalized the contract?" "The contract's formalized. We both signed it." Marcus settled back in his seat. "I'm advancing you some funds because your kids are hungry. It's not complicated." Carricks took the bag. The weight of it felt impossible in her palm. She'd just been prepared to sell 3 months of her life for 25 credits, and this human she'd met 15 minutes ago had handed her 1,000 like it was nothing. "I will earn this," she said, her voice fierce. "Whatever work you need, I'll do it. I don't take charity." "Good," Marcus said, "because I'm not offering charity. I'm offering a job. There's a difference." Carricks nodded once and left the hauler. Her legs felt strange, like the gravity had shifted. Inside the warehouse, she climbed the half-collapsed stairs to the 3rd floor, where she'd claimed a corner space. Sith and Mera were curled together in their makeshift nest of scavenged blankets, their small bodies rising and falling with sleep. Mera woke first. At 6, she was more alert than her brother, her silver scales catching the dim light from the broken windows. "Mama." "I'm here, little flame." Carrick's knelt beside them. "Wake your brother. We're leaving." "Leaving?" Sith stirred, his amber eyes blinking open. "Did they come to demolish?" "No, baby, something better." Carrick's helped them up, checking them over with a practiced eye. Too thin, scales dull. Mera's wing had a tear that wasn't healing properly. All problems that could be fixed with proper food and medicine. "We have a place to stay now. And food." "Real food?" Sith asked, his voice small. "Real food. As much as you can eat." Carrick's gathered their few possessions. It took less than a minute. Everything they owned fit in 2 bags. "Come on." She led them down the stairs and out to where Marcus waited. The human straightened when he saw the cubs, and Carrick's tensed automatically, positioning herself between him and her children. But Marcus just nodded to them politely. "Hey, I'm Marcus. You two hungry?" Sith pressed against Carrick's leg. Mera, bolder, studied Marcus with open curiosity. "Are you really going to give us food?" Mera asked. "That's the plan," Marcus said. "But first we have to get to my place. Then we'll figure out a proper meal. Sound good?" Mera looked up at Carrick's, who managed a small nod. The cubs climbed into the hauler's back seat, which had just enough room for their small bodies. Carrick's returned to the passenger seat, still holding the bag of credits like it might evaporate if she loosened her grip. Marcus drove through the city, away from the warehouse district, away from the desperate edges where refugees clustered, deeper into the industrial quarter, where the buildings were functional and the streets were cleaner. He pulled up to a compound surrounded by a reinforced fence. Inside, Carrick's could see several large warehouses, equipment yards, and what looked like a small living quarters building. "Home sweet home," Marcus said, keying in the gate code. "The main warehouse is for salvage processing. That's where we'll be working. The smaller building on the right is living quarters, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, full kitchen. You and the cubs take the whole 2nd floor. I'm on the ground floor." He parked the hauler and led them inside. The living quarters were modest but clean. The 2nd floor had 2 bedrooms connected by a shared bathroom with a small common area. Basic furniture, functional rather than decorative. To Carrick's, who'd been living in a condemned warehouse, it looked like luxury. "Bathroom works," Marcus said. "Hot water usually lasts about 20 minutes if you're conservative. Kitchen downstairs is fully stocked. I'll show you where everything is in a minute." He looked at Sith and Mera, who were staring around with wide eyes. "But first, let's deal with food. What do draconians eat? I've got proteins, grains, vegetables, some processed stuff." "We're omnivorous," Carrick said, her voice sounding distant to her own ears. "Cubs need more protein than adults, and calcium for scale development." "Right, calcium. I can work with that." Marcus headed downstairs. "Come on, let's see what we can put together." The kitchen was large and well organized. Marcus moved through it with easy familiarity, pulling out ingredients. Within minutes, he'd assembled a meal of roasted meat, rice, steamed vegetables, and a calcium supplement shake that he mixed without being asked. Sith and Mera fell on the food, like they'd forgotten what eating felt like. Carrick's watched them, her throat tight, then forced herself to eat as well. Her body screamed for the nutrition, even as her mind kept waiting for the catch, the trap, the moment Marcus would reveal what he really wanted. But he just ate his own meal, occasionally passing dishes closer to the cubs when their small arms couldn't reach. When the meal was finished, Mera was nearly asleep in her chair. Scythe had curled up on the floor, his stomach finally full for the first time in days. "Get them to bed," Marcus said quietly. "Then come back down. We should talk about the actual work." Carrick's carried her cubs upstairs, one under each arm. They weighed nothing, too little. But that would change now. She settled them in one of the bedrooms, on an actual bed with actual sheets, and watched until their breathing deepened into real sleep. Then she went back downstairs to find out what Marcus Webb really wanted from her. He was in the living area, reviewing something on a data pad. He looked up when she entered and gestured to a chair. "Okay," Marcus said. Here's the situation. I run a salvage operation, mostly spacecraft parts, some industrial equipment, occasionally intact vessels that got impounded or abandoned. I have contracts with 3 different buyers, plus I do direct sales to smaller operators who need parts cheap. That's legitimate work, Carrick said, surprised. She'd been half expecting something illegal. Completely legitimate, licensed, taxed, inspected regularly. I don't run contraband, and I don't deal with anyone who does. Marcus swiped through screens on his pad. The problem is volume. I'm turning down contracts because I can't process the salvage fast enough. I need someone who can assess spacecraft systems, who can handle the physical work of disassembly, and who can fly when we need to move intact vessels. That's all true, Carrick said slowly, but that doesn't explain the 500 credits, or the business partnership terms, or any of this. She gestured around the room. Marcus set down the datapad and leaned forward, his expression serious. Here's what I saw today, he said. I saw a trained military commander, someone who probably supervised dozens of personnel, who probably made tactical decisions that affected hundreds of lives. I saw someone with skills and experience that took years to develop. And I saw that person offer to sell 3 months of her labor for less than I spend on equipment maintenance in a week. He paused. That's not just wrong, Carricks. That's wasteful. You're worth more than that. The market says otherwise. The market's broken. You know how I know? Because I can't find qualified help at any reasonable price, and you can't sell qualified skills at any price at all. That's not a functioning market. That's a rigged system. Marcus's voice was calm, but there was anger underneath it. Controlled anger, the kind that came from seeing the same injustice too many times. So, I'm choosing not to participate in it. By overpaying for my contract. By offering you what you're actually worth. There's a difference. Marcus pulled up a spreadsheet. Look, I did rough numbers last month. If I could double my processing capacity, I could take on enough additional contracts to increase revenue by about 60%. Even after accounting for your 40% share, additional equipment costs, and higher overhead, I'd still come out ahead. He turned the pad so she could see the figures. This isn't charity, Carricks. This is business. I need a skilled partner, and I'm willing to pay market rate for actual skills rather than exploitation rate for desperate labor. Carrick studied the numbers. Her mind, trained in logistics and resource management, automatically checked the math. It was sound, conservative even. If anything, Marcus was underselling the potential revenue increase. You're really offering me 40%. That's what the contract says. We can renegotiate after 3 months if the split doesn't feel equitable. Marcus took back the datapad. I'll handle the business management side, client relationships, legal compliance. You'll handle salvage assessment, physical processing, and flight operations when needed. We'll both do the actual disassembly work because there's a lot of it. What's the catch? Carricks asked. She couldn't help it. This was too good. There had to be something. The catch is it's going to be hard work. Long hours, physical labor, sometimes dangerous when we're dealing with damaged power systems or unstable vessels. The catch is I have high standards and I'll expect you to meet them. The catch is if you prove you're not actually qualified, we'll end the partnership. Marcus met her eyes. And the catch is you'll have to accept that you're worth more than 25 credits for 3 months of your life. Some people find that last one harder than all the rest. Carricks sat back. Her hands were shaking slightly, from hunger, from stress, from the sheer whiplash of her circumstances changing so fast. I don't understand you, she said finally. You're human. Your people destroyed mine. Why do you care what happens to me? Because I was there, Marcus said quietly. I was in the command center when they made the decision to bombard the Crimson Peaks. I listened to officers who'd never seen your mountains decide they were expendable. I watched them calculate civilian casualties and determine the numbers were acceptable. His jaw tightened. I couldn't stop it. I tried, but I couldn't. So now I do what I can, which isn't much. But it's something. Guilt, then. Call it whatever you want. Does it matter? Carrick's considered. Did it matter why Marcus was offering her this chance? Would the food in her cubs' bellies taste different if his motivations weren't pure? Would her share of the profits spend differently? No, she admitted. I suppose it doesn't. Then we have a deal. Marcus extended his hand, human style. Carrick's looked at it. 3 months ago, she'd been Wing Commander Carrick's of the 3rd Talon Brigade, leading flight operations across 6 mountain ranges. 2 months ago, she'd been a refugee, clutching her cubs in a transport ship, watching her homeland burn below. 1 month ago, she'd been competing for scraps in the warehouse district, trying to keep her children alive one day at a time. This morning, she'd been ready to sell herself for 25 credits, and now this scarred human veteran was offering her a partnership, respect, a chance to be worth something again. She took his hand. His grip was firm, calloused from hard work. We have a deal, she said. Marcus smiled. It was a small expression, but genuine. Good. We start tomorrow. For today, get some rest. You and your cubs probably need it more than you're admitting. He stood. If you need anything tonight, I'm downstairs. Kitchen's open, take whatever you want. Door locks are biometric. I'll program your signature in the morning. Marcus, Carrick said as he turned to leave. Thank you. He paused, looking back. Thank me in 3 months, when you've seen how much work this actually is. You might hate me by then. I don't think so. We'll see. Marcus headed toward his room. Welcome to Web Salvage, partner. Carrick sat alone in the living area for a long time after he left, trying to process everything that had happened. She kept expecting to wake up, to find herself still on the auction platform, still offering herself for 25 credits. But the chair beneath her was solid. The walls around her were real. Upstairs, her cubs were sleeping in safety for the first time in months. Whatever tomorrow brought, whatever this partnership turned out to be, it was a chance. A real chance. Carrick climbed the stairs to check on Seth and Mera one more time. They were still deeply asleep, their small bodies finally relaxed, bellies full. She adjusted their blankets, careful not to wake them. We're going to be okay, she whispered, more to herself than to them. We're going to be okay. For the first time in a very long time, she almost believed it. The next morning, Marcus woke her at dawn. Carrick had barely slept, half convinced that she'd wake up in the warehouse. But the bedroom was still real, the bed still comfortable, and her cubs were still safely asleep in the next room. Coffee? Marcus offered when she came downstairs. He was already dressed for work, practical clothing with reinforced sections. Draconians process caffeine differently, Carrick said. It makes us aggressive. Right. Tea, then? I've got some herbal stuff somewhere. They settled on water. Marcus laid out the day's plan over a quick breakfast. There were 2 salvage jobs scheduled. One was a crashed cargo hauler in an impound lot, already paid for and waiting for processing. The other was an assessment job for a potentially salvageable shuttle that had been abandoned at a private dock. We'll start with the cargo hauler, Marcus said. It's straightforward work. The haul's basically junk, but there are some good components buried in it. Power regulators, control systems, maybe some intact nav equipment if we're lucky. You want me to assess or disassemble? Both. I want to see how you work. Marcus pulled up schematics on his datapad. This is the hauler model. You familiar with it? Carrick studied the image. Corvin 7 series. Heavy cargo usually used for in-system freight. Reliable but outdated. She pointed to several sections. Common failure points are the thruster manifolds and the power coupling for the environmental system. If it crashed, probably one of those went first. That's what I figured. But I want to know for sure. Part of salvage work is understanding why things failed so we can evaluate the parts that didn't. Marcus finished his coffee. You up for manual labor today? Or do you need more recovery time? Carrick flexed her arms. She was still weak from malnutrition, but adrenaline and hope were powerful medicines. I can work. Good. Let your cubs sleep. We'll be back for lunch." They left Sith and Mera sleeping under the watchful eye of a monitoring system Marcus had installed in the quarters. It made Carrick's nervous to leave them, but they were safer here than they'd been anywhere in months. The impound lot was a 30-minute drive. The crashed cargo hauler sat in the back corner, a sad pile of twisted metal and broken dreams. But Carrick's trained eye immediately started picking out valuable components. The power regulators Marcus had mentioned, intact control panels. Even some of the hull plating could be reshaped and resold. "Walk me through your assessment," Marcus said, handing her a toolkit. Carrick's approached the wreck methodically. She started with the external damage, noting impact points and failure cascades. Then she carefully entered the vessel, checking internal systems. "Thruster manifold failed first," she called back to Marcus. "You can see the burn pattern here, probably a manufacturing defect in the pressure seal. The pilot tried to compensate, but that overloaded the maneuvering system. See where the control board melted?" "Yeah." Marcus climbed in beside her, examining the damage. "Nice catch on the pressure seal. I wouldn't have spotted that." They worked for 3 hours, carefully removing valuable components and cataloging them. Marcus watched how Carrick's moved, how she prioritized salvage, how she handled delicate equipment. She worked with practiced efficiency, the muscle memory of years of training taking over, despite her weakened state. "You know your way around spacecraft," Marcus commented as they loaded salvage into the hauler. "I flew combat missions for 12 years before I made commander," Carrick said. "You learn systems inside and out when your life depends on them not failing mid-flight. How many flight hours do you have?" "Approximately 6,000, mixed atmospheric and void. Multi-engine rated, combat certified, light capital ship qualified." Carrick secured a power regulator, though I doubt any of those certifications are recognized here. They are, actually. Draconian military certifications got grandfathered into the civilian system after the war, political concession. Marcus closed the hauler's cargo doors, which means you can legally pilot anything up to a light freighter without additional testing. Carrick stared at him. "I didn't know that. Most refugees don't. The information isn't exactly advertised." Marcus started the hauler. "But it means you can handle the ferry jobs when we buy intact vessels at auction. That's worth a lot." They returned to the compound for lunch. Sith and Mera were awake, exploring their new surroundings with cautious enthusiasm. Mera had found Marcus's small library and was carefully examining books with pictures. Sith was in the kitchen, attempting to figure out how the cold storage unit worked. "Everything okay?" Carrick asked immediately. "We're good, Mama," Mera said. "Is this really where we live now?" "For now, yes. It's nice." Scythe managed to open the cold storage, revealing shelves of food. "There's so much." "Take whatever you want," Marcus said, entering the kitchen. "Just save some room for lunch. I'm thinking sandwiches." "You two know what sandwiches are?" The cubs shook their heads. They'd been living on scavenged rations and charity meals for too long to remember simple things like sandwiches. "Then we're fixing that right now," Marcus declared. "Come on, I'll show you how to build the perfect sandwich." Carrick watched as the human veteran patiently taught her cubs about bread selection and filling ratios. Sith listened with solemn attention. Mera asked 1,000 questions. Marcus answered them all with humor and patience. Something in Carrick's chest, something that had been clenched tight for months, started to loosen. After lunch, Marcus announced he was taking the cubs to get medical checkups and proper clothing, while Carrick organized their living space. He handed her a credit chip. "There's 500 on there," he said. "For anything you or the cubs need. Personal items, clothing, medical supplies, whatever. It's separate from the 1,000 I gave you yesterday." "Marcus, that's too much. It's an advance on your first month's salary, which, by the way, we should formalize." He pulled out his datapad. "I'm thinking a base monthly salary of 2,000 credits plus your 40% share of net profits. How's that sound?" Carrick did the math automatically. 2,000 a month was more than she'd hoped to make in 6 months of manual labor. with 40% of profits on top of that. That's more than fair, she managed. Good. Then it's settled. Marcus herded the cubs toward the door. We'll be back in a few hours. Oh, and Carrix, there's a comm unit in your room, direct line to me. Use it if you need anything. Then they were gone, and Carrix was alone in the compound. She stood in the kitchen for a long moment, then slowly started laughing. It started as a chuckle, but built into something close to hysteria. Yesterday, she'd been offering herself for 25 credits. Today, she had a salary, a profit share, a safe home, and her cubs were being taken clothes shopping by a human veteran who made sandwiches. The universe had a strange sense of humor. She spent the afternoon setting up the living space, using the credits Marcus had provided to order supplies through the compound's delivery system. Proper clothing for all of them, medical supplies for treating minor injuries, personal items, toys for the cubs, because when was the last time they'd had toys? By the time Marcus returned with Sith and Mera, Carrix had transformed the sparse second floor into something that looked like a home. The cubs burst in wearing new clothes, their eyes bright with excitement. "Mama, look, the doctor said my wing will heal," Mera demonstrated by extending her silver wings carefully. "I have to use special medicine, but it'll heal. And I got new boots!" Sith showed off sturdy footwear that actually fit. They're real boots, not the broken ones. "That's wonderful, baby." Carrix pulled them both into a hug, fighting tears. Marcus appeared in the doorway carrying bags. Doctor said they're both undernourished, but otherwise healthy. Mera's wing needs antibiotic ointment twice a day for 2 weeks. I got the prescription filled. He set down the bags. Also, they each picked out some books and a stuffed animal. "Hope that's okay." "It's more than okay," Carrix's voice cracked. "Thank you. Thank me by showing up to work tomorrow ready to tackle that shuttle assessment." Marcus smiled. "Those cubs of yours are something else." Mera asked me 17 questions about how engines work. Sith wanted to know if humans can eat the same food as Draconians. And can you? Mostly, though I'm supposed to avoid your traditional spice blends. Apparently they cause human digestive distress. Marcus headed back downstairs. "Dinner in an hour. I'm thinking stir-fry." The first week passed in a blur of work. Carrix threw herself into the salvage operation with intensity born of gratitude and determination. She assessed wrecks, disassembled components, catalogued inventory, and handled the physical labor that came with processing tons of scrap metal and equipment. Marcus worked beside her, and Carrix quickly learned that the human's casual demeanor hid a sharp mind and serious skills. He could assess the market value of a part at a glance. He knew which buyers wanted which components. He could negotiate prices with ruthless efficiency while maintaining polite friendliness. "You're good at this," Carrix commented on the 5th day, as Marcus closed a deal that got them 30% above asking price for a lot of nav computers. "I've had practice," Marcus updated the inventory. 4 years of practice specifically. I made a lot of mistakes early on. Like what? Like underpricing goods because I was desperate for sales. Like taking on clients who didn't pay. Like buying salvage lots that looked good, but turned out to be worthless. He grinned. "I've probably screwed up every possible way you can screw up in this business. But you learn. Is that why you wanted a partner? Because you'd learned you couldn't do it all alone?" "Partly, but also because it's lonely as hell working by yourself." Marcus closed the datapad. "I'm not built for solitary operation. I like having someone to talk to, someone to share ideas with." He looked at her seriously. "Someone to tell me when I'm being an idiot." "Have you been an idiot recently?" "Ask me in 3 months. The work was hard, but Carrix found herself enjoying it. There was satisfaction in taking broken things and making them valuable again. There was challenge in assessing complex systems and determining optimal salvage strategies. And there was pride in doing work she was genuinely skilled at, work that mattered. Her body slowly recovered. With regular meals and proper nutrition, her scales regained their luster. Her strength returned. The constant, gnawing exhaustion that had defined her life for months finally faded. Scythe and Mera flourished even more dramatically. Within 2 weeks, they'd both gained healthy weight. Mera's wing healed completely. Scythe's scales, which had been dull and brittle, shone with proper copper tones. They laughed again. They played. They acted like cubs should act. "They're doing well," Marcus commented one evening. He was teaching them a human card game that involved matching numbers and colors. "Mera's scary smart. She figured out the strategy in like 3 rounds. She gets that from her father," Carrick said without thinking, then froze. Marcus glanced up. "You don't talk about their father. He died in the bombardment. He was a flight mechanic groundside when the missiles hit." Carrick kept her voice steady. "We'd been pair-bonded for 8 years. I'm sorry." "So am I." Carrick watched her cubs. "He would have liked you, I think. He always said the best humans were the ones who questioned orders. I question lots of orders. It's my defining characteristic." Marcus played a card, and Mera immediately countered with a better one, winning the round. "See? Scary smart." "I won," Mera announced. "You did. Congratulations." Marcus gathered the cards. "Okay, cubs. Time for bed. Tomorrow's a school day." That was another thing Marcus had arranged. He'd enrolled Scythe and Mera in a local education center that specifically served refugee children. It was free, funded by charity organizations, and it provided both academic instruction and socialization. The cubs had been nervous at first, but they were adapting. After the cubs were in bed, Carrick joined Marcus in his office, a small room off the main warehouse where he handled business management. He was reviewing contracts for the following week. "We got 3 new bids," he said. "One's a capital ship demolition. Big job, big payout, but it'll take at least a month. Another is a bulk purchase of mixed salvage from an impound auction. Third is a consulting job, assessing whether a damaged freighter is worth repairing. What do you think?" "I think we should take the consulting job and the auction lot. The capital ship demolition is tempting, but we don't have the equipment yet. Maybe in 6 months." Marcus turned the screen so she could see the numbers. "Consulting pays well for minimal labor. The auction lot is a gamble, but if your assessment is good, we could make significant profit." Carrick studied the details. "The auction's tomorrow?" "Yeah. Want to come? It'll be good experience." "Will there be," she trailed off, not wanting to say it, "labor auctions?" "No. This is equipment and vessel salvage only. Different type of auction entirely." Marcus's expression softened. "I wouldn't take you back to a place like that." "Thank you." "No, the salvage auction was nothing like the labor auction. It was held in a professional facility, with serious buyers examining lots carefully before bidding." Marcus moved through the crowd with confidence, greeting acquaintances, examining merchandise. "See that lot?" He pointed to a pile of what looked like random junk. "What do you see?" Carrick studied it. Most buyers were passing it by, but her trained eye caught something. "Third row down, left side. That's a military-grade sensor array." "Yeah?" Marcus looked more carefully. "You sure?" "Positive it's damaged, but if even half the components are functional, it's worth more than this entire lot is likely to sell for." "Then we're bidding on this." Marcus made a note on his data pad. "This is exactly why I needed you. I would have walked right past that." They won the lot for 800 credits. When they processed it back at the compound, the sensor array alone yielded parts they sold for 3,000. The rest of the lot provided another 2,000 in salvage value. "Not bad," Marcus said, calculating their profit. 4,800 gross minus 800 purchase cost. 4,000 profit. Your 40% share is 1,600 credits. For 1 day's work. For 1 good assessment. This is what I mean about you being worth more than 25 credits. Marcus transferred the funds. "You just made 1,600 because you know military equipment. That knowledge has value." Carrick stared at her account balance. In 3 weeks with Marcus, she'd earned more than she would have made in a year of desperate manual labor. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll keep doing good work." That's all I need. As the weeks passed, Carrick and Marcus fell into an easy partnership. They worked well together, their skills complementing each other. Marcus handled business strategy and client relationships. Carrick handled technical assessment and flight operations. Together, they processed salvage with efficiency that had buyers taking notice. "You two are making a name for yourselves," one of their regular clients mentioned. "Word's getting around that Web Salvage doesn't miss anything. Your assessments are thorough." "We do our best," Marcus said modestly. But he grinned at Carrick after the client left. "See? Reputation matters in this business. We're building something here." "Ah, we are," Carrick agreed, and realized with some surprise that she felt proud. Genuinely proud. For the first time since the war, the cubs were thriving. Sith had made friends at the education center. Mara was excelling in her classes, particularly mathematics and engineering concepts. They still had nightmares sometimes, still carried trauma from their months of instability, but they were healing. One evening, Mara asked Carrick, "Are we going to stay here with Marcus?" "I don't know, little flame. We have a contract for 3 months. After that, we'll see." "I like it here," Sith said quietly. "I like Marcus. He's nice." "He is nice," Carrick agreed. "Do you like him, Mama?" Mara asked with a child's directness. Carrick considered the question seriously. Did she like Marcus? She respected him. She was grateful to him. She enjoyed working with him. He was kind to her cubs. He'd given them a chance when no one else would. "Yes," she said finally. "I like him." "Good," Mara said, satisfied, "because I think he likes you too." Carrick lay awake that night, thinking about Mara's observation. Did Marcus like her? Beyond professional respect, beyond the working partnership, was there something else? She examined her own feelings and found them complicated. Marcus had saved them in very literal terms. He'd pulled them from desperation and given them stability. That created a power imbalance that made any deeper feelings questionable. Was she grateful, or was she feeling something more? And did it matter? The partnership was working. The cubs were safe. For the first time in months, Carrick could imagine a future that didn't involve constant survival mode. Maybe that was enough. The 2-month mark came and went. Web Salvage was thriving. Their reputation had grown to the point where clients were seeking them out rather than the other way around. Marcus turned down more jobs than they accepted, focusing on high-value contracts that matched their skills. "We should hire help," Marcus said one evening. "We're at capacity. If we want to grow, we need more hands." "What kind of help?" "Junior salvage tech, someone to handle basic disassembly while we focus on assessment and complex work." Marcus pulled up job posting templates. "I'm thinking we offer fair wages, good conditions, training provided. Maybe we can give someone else the kind of chance I gave you." Carrick felt something warm spread through her chest. "You want to help more refugees. I want to hire someone who needs the work and will do it well. If that person happens to be a refugee, great." Marcus grinned. "I learned from the best that desperate doesn't mean unskilled." They posted the job. Applications flooded in. Carrick helped Marcus review them, looking for candidates with potential. They eventually hired a young avian named Cree, who'd been working food service but had technical training she couldn't use due to certification issues. "Same deal," Marcus told Cree on her first day. "Fair wages. We treat you with respect. You work hard. Sound good?" "Sounds amazing," Cree said, her feathers fluffed with excitement. Training Cree gave Carrick a new appreciation for how much she'd learned. She realized she'd absorbed not just technical skills, but business strategy, client management, and market assessment. She was becoming more than just a salvage worker. She was becoming a real partner in the operation. "You're good at this," Marcus commented, watching Carrick explain assessment techniques to Cree. "The teaching part. I used to train new pilots," Carrick said. "It's not that different. Maybe we should formalize it. You could develop a training program. We could take on more junior staff, build out the operation. Marcus looked thoughtful. You'd be good at managing a team. You want to expand that much? I want to build something that lasts, something that matters. Marcus met her eyes. With you, if you're interested. There was weight in those words, implication beyond business partnership. I'm interested, Carrick said carefully, but Marcus, you know I'm grateful for everything you've done. I don't want that gratitude to be confused with... With what? Marcus asked gently. With something else. Marcus was quiet for a moment. I'm going to say something and I need you to really hear it, okay? Carrick nodded. I didn't give you this opportunity because I wanted gratitude or anything else from you, Marcus said. I did it because it was right. And because you deserved a fair chance. Everything that's happened since, the partnership succeeding, us working well together, becoming friends, that's separate. That's real. It's not about debt or obligation. He paused. So if you feel something beyond professional respect, it's not because you owe me. And if you don't feel anything beyond professional respect, that's fine too. Either way, we're good. Carrick's absorbed this. What if you feel something beyond professional respect? Then I'd be an idiot not to, Marcus said with a slight smile. But that's my problem, not yours. You don't owe me feelings, Carrick's. You don't owe me anything except showing up to work and doing the job we agreed on. What if I wanted to owe you something? The words came out before Carrick's could stop them. Marcus blinked. What? What if I wanted there to be something beyond professional respect? Carrick's hearts were hammering. What if I've been thinking about this for weeks and trying to figure out if what I feel is gratitude or something else, and I think it might be something else? A smile spread slowly across Marcus's face. Then I'd say we should probably talk about that. But after the 3-month mark, when the original contract ends and we're choosing to continue working together, so it's clear that any decision is being made freely. 1 more week, Carrick said. 1 more week, Marcus agreed. And then we'll figure out what this is. That week was both eternal and instantaneous. Carrick found herself hyper-aware of Marcus in a way she hadn't been before. The way he moved, the way he solved problems, the way he was endlessly patient with her cubs, the way he treated everyone with respect, from high-paying clients to the junior staff they were now training. He was a good man, a genuinely good man, something Carrick had started to believe didn't exist after everything she'd experienced. The 3-month mark fell on a rest day. Marcus had suggested they celebrate the successful partnership with dinner, a real dinner at an actual restaurant. Carrick had agreed, then spent an embarrassing amount of time figuring out what to wear. You look pretty, Mama, Mera said, watching Carrick adjust her clothing for the 5th time. Thank you, little flame. Are you and Marcus going on a date? Scythe asked. It's a business dinner, Carrick said automatically. That's what people say when it's a date, but they're nervous about calling it a date, Mera announced with disturbing wisdom for a 6-year-old. Carrick looked at her daughter. Where did you learn that? School. Vex's mom went on a business dinner with someone, and now he lives with them. It's complicated.